So it really was the mid-'80s when the FCC regulations began to change and change things, perhaps not for the better.
Well, there was a mad scramble for companies to build gigantic radio groups. I mean, I don't even remember what the rules used to be, but back when, we both worked for McClatchy at that time. McClatchy used to own KFBK and Y92, where my buddy Paul Robinson and I worked for so many years. The rules were you couldn't own more than one AM or FM in any given market. And I don't think you can own more than about a dozen radio stations across the country. I think Clear Channel is now a group of some 1,700 radio stations.
Across America.
And they have tried to homogenize it as much as they can, just in the interest of consolidating their costs.
Well, they're capitalists, as you know.
Absolutely.
They're capitalists. So, on one hand, you can't argue with them, but on the other hand, they own a public trust. They own the license is a public license. And this is where I find it fascinating that the public at some point has to make sure that they control the media, at least that they control the free expression on the media. The media is not a printing press for corporate America, certainly on the broadcast side, because without those public licenses, there is no radio, there is no television.
Well, let's talk about, just for a moment if we can, though, let's talk about, there's been an evolution in newspapers. There's been the evolution in radio. Where's all this going? I mean, you've got the opportunity right on this, this program today. Where do you think it's going?
Well, newspapers are done, as far as I'm concerned. They're finished. They are buggy whips. That's Pullman railway cars they're building over at 21st and Q in Sacramento. They won't acknowledge that. I mean, they see these jets flying across the sky, and they go, well, people are still going to take our trains. Well, yeah, a few will. But basically, they're finished. The technology that they use is done. The medium is done. Their news is 24, 48 hours old. So they're finished. That's history. Move on. They can't sustain the infrastructure over at 21st and Q. They have 240 reporters and editors and photographers at the B still, and there's no way they can pay for those people down the road. It's not going to work. So they've got to move that stuff onto the web where you can get the immediacy. But nobody is going to control the web the way McClatchy controlled the print in Sacramento. There's one McClatchy. There's how many websites in Sacramento? So it'll never be the same.
Well, and it doesn't seem as though they've been able to master the business model, and really not many have. Google has, how you make money with a website. They haven't figured it out yet.
Most newspapers, perhaps not radio, but most newspapers began with the concept of they gave away the internet, and now they want to come back and try to charge for seeing their material on the internet. Pretty difficult to charge for something which you initially gave away.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. The Wall Street Journal is talking about, they're one of the few success stories in terms of making people pay for the product. Murdoch is now going to give the product away. He's going to give away the Wall Street Journal online. So that's not going to happen. That cat has flown the coop. That bird has flown the coop. That's not going to come back. So yeah, they've got to find a way to make money on that website as more and more of their print advertisers leave. And that's the dilemma. No one's figured it out, as you say. I mean, no one has figured that out.
It's trying to exact a model that works has been proven very, very difficult.
Tell me how radio stations specifically decide what to do. Do they do polls, or is it that the sweeps that determine what radio stations do, whether they're talk radio or their music? Or
basically, they do a lot of market research. If you've got a station that is underperforming, and I worked on the music side much longer than I ever did on the news side, if you've got a station that's underperforming, you start looking at the market as a whole, and you try and find a gap so that you can pick up a niche somewhere that you think you might be able to garner an audience. Y92 is no longer Y92 now. In fact, my buddy Paul Robbins just got kicked to the curb a few weeks ago as well. And they've gone with this My 92.5 concept where purportedly people can go online and tell the station what their 5 favorite songs are. And as a group of listeners, we're building this playlist. The concept is my station, my music, I think. But that strikes me as odd because if people want their music, that's been part of the problem with music radio is they're listening to it on their iPods, and if you want your music, you're not turning on the radio.
Let me tell you or at least an interesting story to me. Peter Lund was the head of a radio station down in talk radio down in San Diego, and Peter and I were longtime friends. And I said to him, "Look, I can do this job. Give me a chance."
You kept trying to take over my show every opportunity.
So one day Peter said, I want you here on Friday night. Be here at 7 o'clock, and you're on for 3 hours. Get yourself some guests. So I did, in fact, do that. I got the officer of the Pueblo, the junior officer, I don't remember what his name was at this particular point. But at any rate, I did that. So I was curious. I finally said to Peter after this was all over, and by the way, they told me to keep my daytime job after that. But at any rate, I said to Peter, I said, why did you let me do that? He said, because on Monday, he said, tomorrow, we're going to country. And frankly, it didn't matter if we were dark. It just didn't make any difference.
Well, they've tested all these things in multiple markets, as you know. And but I still think, to me, the people want local stories. They want local news. They want Bob Moffat out there on the streets. I
believe that to be true.
That's what they want, and that's what there'll always be a place for that. If you can deliver the breaking news, tell me why I-5 is backed up at Sutterville Road. I need to know that, and I'm not going to get that anywhere else but on the radio.
Or why the transportation project that isn't finished and was supposed to have been done 6 months ago is still ongoing. And I mean, local issues are what matter to people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with politics, as you well know.
Same, of course. Same thing.
Let's jump ship for a second and talk about Cirrus and XM Satellite. They're trying to merge, and who knows whether or not the FCC is going to allow them to do that or not. But how do they factor into the marketplace?
They don't, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't know if they make that big a difference. It has proven really tough for them in their business model to get people to pay for radio. As you said, with the website, you're asking people to pay for something they've always gotten for free. Now, they do offer a lot more than terrestrial radio does. They have so many different formats to choose from, but still, asking somebody to pay, I don't even know what it is, $15, $20 a month?
$10 a month, I think, generally speaking.
Asking them to pay for it has proven hard.
Well, gentlemen, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is, and unfortunately, we have run out of time. And had I had a little thought about this more, we probably should have booked this for an hour or 2 hours.
Bob and I can talk a lot.
You know,
we're just warming up.
And so what we need to do is to plan to have you back, because as I may have told you, this goes to 12 different counties, and every now and then somebody else picks up one of this. But I can't tell you what a pleasure it is, Ari, to have you here, and Phil, to have you here as well.
It's always good to see you, Senator.
Our pleasure.
You bet.
Thank you, Senator.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching.
You can contact Senator Dave Cox at his office in Sacramento. Call 916-651-4001. Thank you for watching The Capitol Report.